Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this final part today and this week, I guess. It's March 8th, 2013, and I'm Darko. This is my website, ggnonline.com. Here's a poll here. Do you believe the recent anti-Israel stance by the Obama regime is a counterintelligence operation to make Israel appear vulnerable to attack by Iran? So far, 78% are saying yes, followed by 14% saying not sure, and 7% saying no. My YouTube channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. This first article I have for you is U.S. farmers may stop planting GMs, or genetically modified crops, after poor global yields. So it has nothing to do with patenting or licensing, doesn't have to do with health effects or the fact that it doesn't work. It just says poor yields. So some U.S. farmers are considering returning to conventional seed after increased pest resistance and crop failures meant GM crops saw smaller yields globally than their non-GM counterparts. So farmers in the USA pay about an extra $100 per acre for GM seed, and many are questioning whether they will continue to see the benefits from using GMs. It really sucks because it goes in here and it says that some of these bugs will eat the plant and it will make them sick but not kill them. And it says it starts off in pockets of the country, then goes more widespread. He said, we're looking at going back to cultivation to control it. So organic? No, I now use insecticides again. One of the issues if farmers do move back towards non-GMs will be the availability of seed, he says, as around 87% of U.S. farmers plant genetically modified seed, which is what? It's mostly corn and soy. So, food with what? Not much nutritional value, corn and soy, which, like some studies say, can have estrogen mimicking properties to it. Monsanto's GMO, okay, let's not forget GMO crops too, as far as sterilizing you. So it's a threefold package. Monsanto's GMO seeds contributing to farmer suicides every 30 minutes. So, this going on there talking about poor yields. I mean, there's a lot more going on to this, right? So it says here it's been called the largest wave of record suicides in human history. Indian farmers are now killing themselves in record numbers. The cause? Monsanto's cost-inflated and ineffective seeds have been driving farmers to suicides and is considered to be one of the largest, if not largest, cause of the 250,000 farmer suicides over the past 16 years. There's about one death every 30 minutes. It says here that the crazy part is that they would often commit the act by drinking the very same insecticide that Monsanto supplied them with. It says to further add backing to the tragedy, the rate of the Indian farmer suicides massively increased since the introduction of Monsanto's Bt cotton in 2002. Lastly, one of the families said, we are now ruined, or we are ruined now, says one dead man's 38-year-old wife. We bought 100 grams of Bt cotton. Our crop failed twice. My husband had become depressed. He went out to the field, laid down in the cotton, and swallowed insecticide. So this is from March 5th of this year. Monsanto Hawaii vice president denies Indian farmers GMO suicides. So Fred Perlock, Monsanto's vice president of Hawaii, has flatly denied that there have been 200,000 farmer suicides in India, and also refused to comment on whether Monsanto feels guilty for the Indian farmer suicide rate. It was on a YouTube video. So he goes on there and he says that, hey Fred, 200,000 farmers in India committed suicide. He interrupts him, I guess, by saying that's not true. Interviewer says, do you feel that you're responsible for that? He says, maybe Perlock means that the suicide figure is not 200,000, but more. But we at Sustainable Pulse doubt that this is what he was suggesting. Mexican farmers protest the entrance of GMO corn. Thousands across Mexico demand their government reject permits for GMO corn, while Monsanto defends their patent on life in U.S. Supreme Court. So they know what's coming. Seed giants sue U.S. farmers over genetically modified seed patents in shocking numbers, says a report. This is from February of this year. Supreme Court will hear arguments February 19th in Bowman versus Monsanto. So a battle that has pitted a farmer against the International Agricultural Corporation over the issue of seed patents. But a lot of times it's going to end up like this story from September of 2011. Monsanto wins lawsuit against Indiana soybean farmer. They claim intellectual property infringement when a farmer used the company's patented seeds from a commodity seed bag. You also have millions against Monsanto campaign challenging the biotech bully. So this group is calling, the consumer group is calling on retailers to pledge voluntary compliance with our truth in labeling campaign by clearly identifying all food products containing genetically modified ingredients with a label or shelf sign that says may contain GMOs, and by identifying all factory farm animal products. You have Whole Foods to label all genetically modified food from March 8th. Chain sets a 5-year deadline in what could be a game changer. So it says in an industry first, Whole Foods promised that all genetically modified foods sold in stores will be clearly labeled as GMO products by 2018. They says, but it's difficult to do so because current law doesn't require such labeling, so you have to be forced and coerced into doing this. Just label this shit, you know? Just label whether it has MSG. Just label if it's, this or that, or where it's coming from. Just do it. It is smart business, as they say, right? Just be honest. People are sick of getting lied to, especially when they play the game of, oh, it's corn sugar and it's high fructose corn syrup, or it's disodium guanylate, or natural flavors, or hydrolyzed soy protein. That's all MSG. So they play these word games so they can put no MSG on the cover because they know people are tired of it and they don't want it anymore. You have Maine town declares food sovereignty. So Maine has done what no other town in the U.S. has done. They unanimously passed an ordinance giving its citizens the right to produce, process, sell, purchase, and consume local foods of their choosing. This includes raw milk, locally slaughtered meats, and just about anything else you can imagine. It's also a decided bucking of state and federal laws. They added, it shall be unlawful for any law or any regulation adopted by the state or federal governments to interfere with the rights recognized by this ordinance. In other words, no state licensing requirements prohibiting certain farms from selling dairy products or producing their own chickens for sale to other citizens in the town. Again, with coercion and force, they say, what about legal liability and state federal inspectors? They said it's all up to the seller and buyer to negotiate. So, that's what it should be, right? There should be a plethora of these inspectors, food inspectors, like they kind of have with organics. And, if they're legitimate and credible, people will see that as labeled on their food or products, and they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. You don't have to be forced into inspecting. If they don't want to have it inspected, and if customers want to waive that liability, then that should be their right. The problem is that the FDA, along with the EPA, goes and SWAT teams and raids these farmers who are basically dealing voluntarily with their customers, especially with raw milk. There's no questions asked. That people know what they're getting. But it also goes both ways too, right? When you got people that be in that situation and try to sue the farmer, well, it's like, well, dude, And that's why I don't really agree with the legitimacy of the court system, because they don't take that into account. They'll just let it get ridiculous and stupid. This is an interesting story that someone showed me. This is actually from February of 2013. Kind of went under the radar. I didn't really see much of it. All India strike today. Banks and public transport hit. 1 killed in Ambala. There's one other headline about the union strike turns violent, right? Turns violent. It says a 2-day all India strike that started today has severely impacted banking services and public transport services across the nation. The strike called by 11 unions has already claimed 1 life. Guess who that is? After a trade union leader, their leader of the union, who was squatting along with a group of workers near a bus depot, was crushed. He died when he was hit by a bus in its bid to stop it from plying. So the union leader was crushed to death under the wheels of a state-owned roadway bus, which he and his fellow protesters attempted to stop early Wednesday. To prevent the bus from coming in, which was escorted by officers of the district administration. So the union workers became violent then and damaged some police vehicles. They charged at the police officers and depot management of attempting to intimidate the protesting trade union workers. It's interesting because this was the whole point. The whole point was to get them to do this, to get violent, and then they can clamp down on them and send a message. On a side note, because I just saw this tonight, activists demand Kraft stop dyeing its mac and cheese. They say U.S. should get the same version as rest of the world. Yellow 5 and Yellow 6. It says Kraft has devised a version without them that looks and tastes nearly identical. So, It's just interesting, though. It points out that the FDA has approved the ingredients. So, again, why do you need the FDA? Why don't you get a more credible organization to inspect it? And again, why are you going to try to force them to do something like this? Why not just buy their product? Go buy the organic version of macaroni and cheese. It's freaking awesome. Let this stupid global, crap company go out of business. Scientists officially link processed foods to autoimmune disease. The modern diet of processed foods, takeaways, I guess that's takeout, and microwave meals could be to blame for a sharp increase in autoimmune diseases such as multiple sclerosis, including alopecia, asthma, and eczema. This is first to indicate that excess refined and processed salt may be one of the environmental factors driving the increased incidences of autoimmune diseases. It's crazy because they say that many low-fat foods rely on salt and lots of it for their flavor. What they're not saying is that a lot of these places use MSG. So, again, they keep bashing sugar, but they don't say whether it's high fructose corn syrup or not. Why are giant sinkholes? And it's like everything else, right? In moderation. So there's good health benefits with salt and sugar, but it depends on where you get it from and how much you take in. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but either way, why are giant sinkholes appearing all over America? Is it something happening to the Earth's crust? Well, an interesting video that was sent to me, what is fracking? And it's talking about this Bakken shale oil in North Dakota. Watch the video animation to learn how the process of hydraulic fracturing, known as fracking, forces oil from the ground in North Dakota. So these are all what they do is they drill like this down. It's like a mile deep or something, and then they go parallel. And all these lines are where they've drilled down, and then they go on parallel. So all of these lines are all part of fracturing. Look at all those. It's insane. That is a lot, man.
Deep underground, horizontal pipes stretch up to 2 miles long.
And you can go there and check it out, but yeah, it's basically talking about this little ball that they shoot through there, then water, then they pressurize it, and it fractures it and cracks it.
This well cracked the rock.
Yeah, so they cracked a rock 29 times, it says. So this is what they do. Can't possibly be good, right, for the surface? Also, another theory is that these water tables and the water in the earth is being dried out due to weather modification. So, I mean, whatever it is, the chances are that it's being induced or caused by man. And not your average person with their cell phone or smartphone going to KFC. No, it's people trying to make a lot of money and basically a small few group of people. Efficient solar antenna to tune into the sun. So it goes in here and it says that a professor has patented a technique to manufacture nano-sized antenna arrays to have the capability to efficiently convert sunlight into usable electric power. So we'll see if that plays out. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen unless they have monopoly. They have to have a monopoly on energy, a monopoly on creation. That's the key here. The thing about the powers that be is that they don't want other people co-creating, right? They don't want us procreating, creating life. They want to be done, engineered in a lab. They don't want us creating currency. They have to have a monopoly on currency. They have to have a monopoly on creation of energy. They have to have a monopoly on creation because they are just evil bastards. So just look at life, about how all that works. It all comes down to them having a monopoly on creation of something. Because the way it's supposed to be is that we're supposed to be co-creating here. Data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration show that these carbon dioxide levels are rising, but global temperatures are not following suit. You see crap like this. Eons of data suggest record heat is ahead. So like last March, it was 90 degrees. That's what someone pointed out to me. It was like real warm last March. And because they were spraying the hell out of us and harping and pulsing the ionosphere, cooking us like in a microwave. But I wish they would actually talk about how we're heading into an ice age, especially by 2050. Think of a much longer version of the common hockey stick analogy of temperatures, which they just showed is inaccurate, right? But as far as the Ice Age goes, they did mention one thing. The research covers the entire span of what's known as the Holocene period, which began after the last Ice Age. A record 89,300,000 Americans not in labor force. Those are useless eaters. They got to go. So a demonic duo is backup abortion prevents global catastrophe. Paul Ehrlich and Ann Ehrlich added again, the best way, in our view, to achieve population shrinkage is to give full rights and opportunities to women and to make modern contraception and backup abortion accessible to all sexually active people. To prevent interspecies genocide, that's these bastards getting taken down by the majority. So this Philadelphia abortion clinic owned by this doctor was a house of horrors filled with aborted fetuses. He's going to go on trial. And new research shows brain connectivity begins in utero and the heartbeat starts after 20 days.